Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon. My subject is about subjective norm distance on knowledge sharing and the themes of private sector. To share or not to share? This question, I think all of us been through asking themselves this question. To share or not to share? And there is a gap between to share and between not to share. So the or is replacing the gap. Why there is a gap between to share and not to share? Because as simple as this, sharing knowledge is voluntary. No one can force anyone to share the knowledge, especially this tacit knowledge that you have, your experience, your knowledge, your journey of gaining this knowledge. No one can force you to share it. So here is the gap. So let us see now this guy between the positive and negative. So we have enablers for knowledge sharing, and we have also barriers for knowledge sharing. So our concern as managers, let us say, corporate owners, to find the gap, to bridge the gap between the barriers and the people there, so that we can have sustainable knowledge sharing. It's not a matter of one day or a year. It's a matter of continuously. Consistency is very important. So we have enablers such as organizational enablers. The concern is to develop human capital. Knowledge sharing management is always there, and it is of a great concern of all the organizations. Although it is important for everyone, the knowledge sharing management, still there are boundaries. As long as they are not removing the boundaries, then all the effort will be useless. So it means that all these efforts should break the boundaries so that we can get a proper knowledge sharing. Of course, there will be also the IT resources, tangible and intangible resources, which is mainly the tacit knowledge. And on the other side, we have the barriers, like boundaries, many kinds of boundaries, personal boundaries in the organization, outside boundaries, even in the environment. Besides the personal barriers, value diversity team. Value diversity, there is also a boundary within the team to share the knowledge. So now, learning capability, if you developed it, many have not, unless shared, as I said, across a boundary. So let us imagine that we have a journey from to. From mine, which is a mine, exactly a mine. When I say mine, it means it's mine. It's my knowledge, it's my effort, it's my fear, it's my resources, it's my time. So why do I share it? All what I earn from the mine is mine. If this is the mentality, that it means that I'm still inside the mine, which is the boundary that prevents me and others to share knowledge together. So we are moving from mine to ours. The theories that I'm going to depend on, my research, planned behavior model, suggests that there are three factors, namely attitudes, subjective norms, perceived behavior, control, which form the behavior intention, because our concern is the knowledge sharing intention, to share or not to share. So moving to these main papers, researches from 2003 and 2018, recently. Cummings and Peng propose 4 factors, organizational distances, which are like the distances between the donator of the knowledge and the receiver of the knowledge. That's what we mean by distance in this topic. So there are, he tackled 4 distances: organizational distance, physical, knowledge, and norm distance. I highlighted the norm because it is meant in the research the common norm, the culture, the organizational cultural value system norm. So when we say norm here, it depends on the organization value system. So it is organization-based values. The hypothesis was that transfer success decreases as norm distance between source and recipients increase. The findings is positive, of course, which says that the greater the norm distance, the least the knowledge transfer, which leads us to knowledge sharing. So the norms here, which is expressing actually what is acceptable and unacceptable in the organizational culture and regarding the value, the organizational value systems. Let us see Day and Mukapadeh 2018. He based his research on the previous research, but he tackled only two dimensions of the distances, of the contextual distances: the knowledge distance and the norm distance. So the hypothesis is relational context has a negative influence on knowledge sharing behavior. The findings were rejected. Now, we have contradictory results. It is rejected. Why? Because the results appears that the relational context, which he means knowledge and the norm, has a negative but insignificant effect on knowledge sharing behavior. So his results partly supports Cummings and Teng. The author claimed the difference between the results, saying that this study has been done in India, and all of them are like nations. It's different than if you have a multinational organization. So you will have multinational culture as well. So their norms will be also different. It will be not all the same. As a result, for this combination of the environment and this organization, that they never bother, they don't concern about knowledge sharing at all. Because all of them, they have the mentality or the habit, let us say, or the norm of hoarding the knowledge. So they don't care. It doesn't mean that there is a problem. They don't consider it as a problem. So that's why there is a call and limitation that this hypothesis need to be examined in different contexts, especially where there are multicultural diversity. So let us go quickly through the model, the relational context, organizational, physical, knowledge, and norm. This is referring to Cummings and Teng, 2003. And also as you see, the recipient and resources. Now the second model, referred to Day and Mukapadeh 2018, he considered only the knowledge and norms in his study. Now, what I'm going to add to this model is to elaborate the dimensions. I want to add another dimension to measure the subjective norms distance. I want to add this dimension to the model. As long as they examine the cultural or organizational norm distance, and they found in a way or another contradictory results, some has partially positive and the others negative. So referring to the theory also that subjective norms has a great effect on the intention for any behavior. So referring to the theory, subjective norm is very important, which is not measured in both models, in both studies. There is another study also in 2018 who added 9 dimensions. Beside these dimensions, he added another 5, but he was conducting the research or his study among different countries. So he put the distance, the geographical, and many things, many dimensions. We are not concerned about that. So this is what I'm thinking to add. Responding to the calls from the literature, let us have a quick review. Cummings and Teng, research on factors affecting knowledge transfer is not sufficient in the literature. Most people or most researchers are concerned about the enablers of knowledge sharing. That's why they are not that much tackling the knowledge sharing barriers. So there is a need to tackle the barriers beside the enablers. The other call is from the Kapadi 2018, examining the macro-level personality traits that affect knowledge sharing. Extend empirical model with more determinants. So I'm going to add another determinant. Beside that, I want to examine one of the macro-level personality traits, which is the intrinsic motivation. How the intrinsic motivation as a moderator will affect the result or the relation between the two components. And referring to Garawi and Dawes, whether less distance on some dimensions affects wider distances. What he meant is that if we tackle the distance, the norm distance between the two parties, will the result affect the other distance? Let us say will affect the knowledge distance. So there is a probability that if you tackle the norm distance, then it will affect automatically as a consequence on the knowledge distance. So this is an area also for future research. Beside that, addressing the measurement in a more structured way. How they measure. Their measurement was through observation and referring to their documentation as well. So there is a call also for structured measurement to get better results or more accurate results. Rijay mentioning that little attention on knowledge sharing barriers, although negative effect on knowledge management. Most, or let us say maybe 85 or 90% of all the papers that I've been through, concentrating that knowledge management is very important and knowledge sharing is affecting it majorly. But unfortunately, there is a little attention on the barriers, as I said before. As a conclusion, the study objectives: to investigate the effect of subjective norm distance on knowledge sharing behavior, to examine the intrinsic motivation as a moderator of the relation. And these are the references, and thank you. I'm done with my presentation.